a Philadelphia native, graduate of LaSalle University, class of 1971, Peter Doherty is the preeminent scholarly publisher of his generation. As director of Princeton University Press, he helped raise its stature as one of the premier university presses in the world. During his dozen-year tenure as leader of the press, he brought to market scores of award-winning titles in various fields of scholarly publishing. During this period, he also served as president of the Association of University Presses. Before becoming its director, he served for a decade as Princeton University Press's group publisher for the social sciences and as senior economics editor of the press, personally building its distinguished titles in the fields of economics and higher education, both regarded as the best in all of the world. Both at Princeton and during his earlier career at the Free Press in New York, and previously at influential commercial publishers ranging from Harcourt Brace, Jovanovich, and McGraw-Hill to St. Martin's Press and Basil Blackwell, he worked closely with authors of numerous prize-winning books, including influential nonfiction bestsellers and no less than 7 Nobel Prize laureates. Some of the landmark books that he edited were his own brainchildren. Currently, he continues to enrich and guide Philadelphia's intellectual and cultural life as Director of Publications at the American Philosophical Society, the oldest scholarly society in the Americas, where he has continued the distinguished tradition of its founder, Benjamin Franklin, and forged a new partnership with the University of Pennsylvania Press as the APS Press distributor. So it is with respect and gratitude that LaSalle welcomes home today its pioneering and intrepid explorer in the book trade, a man who has introduced countless readers to adventures of the mind and new worlds of thought. Therefore, President Allen, I present Peter Doherty to you for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
Thank you, Dr. Rodden, and to our very soon-to-be Dr. Peter Doherty, thank you for being with us today. It's quite clear that your accomplishments, your background, your connections to LaSalle University make you an ideal candidate to receive this honorary degree. And so therefore, I am very pleased to confer upon you, Peter Doherty, the degree Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
I was going to sing the national anthem, but I don't think that's going to be necessary. Thank you, President Allen, for this great honor, and my dear friend John Rodden for your lovely introduction. I confess that I looked at the translation of honoris causa and was pleased to see that it doesn't mean payment due upon delivery. I'd like to recognize 4 fellow LaSallians near and dear to me. The first is my late brother, Joseph Doherty, class of 1982. Joe died an untimely death in 2008, but not without sending one of his 3 sons, Christopher Doherty, to LaSalle. My nephew, Chris Doherty, class of 2009, is with us here today. Another is the late Christopher Cook, my 1971 classmate. Chris was the son of Claude Cook, one of LaSalle's most celebrated scholars. In 1972, Chris helped me land the interview for my first job in publishing, and I have been in his debt ever since. Then there are Jack Jones and Paul Brown, both 1971 classmates of mine. On a warm spring evening in 1968, when we were freshmen, I drove the three of us from West Philadelphia, where we were from, here to LaSalle to attend a dance. During the dance, word circulated through the college union that the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. had been shot and killed. Jack and Paul, both of whom were black, sought me out and insisted that I return home as quickly as possible, dropping them off at Paul's house at 55th and Poplar Street on my way. More than anything, they were concerned that I would be safe on this potentially explosive night. Jack, who went on to distinction as a Philadelphia TV newsman, later died of a tragic illness. I have long since lost track of Paul Brown, but I will never forget them and the humanity they displayed towards me that night. As John Rodden so kindly noted, I have spent my publishing career working with scholars to publish their books designed to explain the evolution of our great social institutions. Now that I have been awarded a doctorate, suddenly I'm feeling empowered to pontificate a little on a certain institution of my own choosing. I'm referring to the noble institution of lunch. Yes, lunch. To be clear, I'm not talking about eat at your computer or grab and go or a hot dog or a Pop-Tart or yogurt in your office. Rather, I'm talking about lunch with a capital L in a sit-down restaurant where in your coming careers, you'll find yourselves dining with colleagues and clients and competitors and friends. To the class of 2024, for all the goals you aspire to, my message is simple. You will achieve these goals more enjoyably and more successfully if you find time to meet often for lunch. What qualifies me to demystify lunch? The answer is research. That is, research from a lifetime in publishing, a profession justly famous for the art of the midday meal. So I'd like to propose a theory of lunch, followed by a few suggestions intended to help you make the most of it in your careers and in your lives. With a nod to Albert Einstein and his unified field theory of relativity, I call mine Doherty's unified field theory of lunch. My theory addresses a critical question. Why, in the middle of the otherwise cluttered business day, do serious people drop everything to race to a restaurant to meet each other for a mushroom omelet? Why does lunch exist at all as a social practice? Lunch, to my mind, exists as a platform for promoting creativity. By ensuring the opportunity for conversation, it enables people to get to know each other personally, to exchange ideas spontaneously, and to turn work briefly into play. How does lunch facilitate these goals? First, it's familiar. Everybody knows what lunch is, where to find it, and when. And unlike breakfast or dinner, most everybody is available. It's a party waiting to happen. Second, it's tangible. Anyone who has lunched on a power bar over Zoom understands just how much more enjoyable lunch is with real people. This tangibility matters more now than ever because it draws us out of our digital igloos. Third, it is collegial. It ensures a modicum of interpersonal respect by mandating timely arrival, appropriate dress, good manners, and a certain decorum. This raises lunch from a mere meal to an event. Fourth, perhaps most importantly, it takes time. A real lunch lasts at least an hour. In publishing, an hour is just warming up. Regardless, long lunches make rich conversation possible, stimulating ideas free of the formality of the office. So as the game theorists would say, lunch exists as an enforcement mechanism for these important social and economic functions to take place. Lunch sandwiches fun into the workday culture and makes such encounters easy and repeatable. But what's in it for us personally? I would argue that the greatest value of lunch is that it nourishes our spirits as well as our stomachs. I draw 5 such examples from my publishing history. First, lunch helped me to discover my professional self. I started my career in the lunchtime capital of the world, Midtown Manhattan. I was a working-class 23-year-old from Philly, the first person in my family educated beyond the 9th grade. Suddenly, I found myself thrust into a job at the leading English language publisher in the world, Harcourt Brace Jovanovich. My colleagues hailed from very different backgrounds than mine. While my LaSalle teachers had prepared me intellectually for life in the world of ideas, it was my lunches with colleagues that acclimated me personally to my new surroundings, awakening my self-confidence. Second, lunch helped me appreciate cultural differences. Some years ago, while I was in China representing Princeton University Press, I participated in a conference with colleagues from the Chinese university presses. As awkward as the formal business encounters were, it was at lunch, around a big table full of local dishes, that we began to toast each other and appreciate each other as publishers. Third, lunch made me more productive. Previously, I noted that lunch buys us an hour or so of time to talk. It taught me the 40-minute rule. That is, after many years of taking my authors to lunch, it dawned on me that something special happens about 40 minutes into the meal. It is then, after the pleasantries and small talk and gossip are exhausted, that the table's imagination awakens, enabling new discoveries. Countless of my publishing projects were hatched over long lunches, including the book I'm proudest of editing, Robert Schiller's classic Irrational Exuberance. Fourth, lunch can just be fun, and we all need that. Years ago, I had lunch with one of my heroes, Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. When I suggested to him that he write a book about the architectural renaissance of Pennsylvania Avenue, he liked the idea, and we met for lunch at a restaurant in Capitol Hill. As we sat at the bar and enjoyed club sandwiches, the senator regaled me with stories. Sadly, he died before completing the book, but it was a memorable lunch for me and just so much fun. Fifth and last, lunch can just be delicious. To test this claim, I urge you to order the pastrami sandwich at the famous 4th Street Deli at the corner of 4th and Bainbridge Street here in Philadelphia, where I've been meeting recently with my American Philosophical Society colleagues. Scholarly theories imply certain behaviors, and mine is no exception. Having demonstrated the importance of lunch, I would offer these following 2 bits of advice. First, take the initiative to invite your colleagues and friends and the occasional hero to lunch. Don't wait to hear from others. This is especially important now that so much work is done from home in front of a screen. Isolation is not good for us. A proper lunch disrupts the isolation, but you've got to make the first move. Second, arrange lunch occasionally with someone you don't agree with, politically or socially, or a person from another age group, or different social background. Remember, the purpose of lunch is that it encourages conversation, and real conversation pays off most handsomely when differences are exchanged and bridged. To wrap this up, my talk began with reference to a corner, 55th and Poplar Street in West Philadelphia. Philadelphia stories in the 60s could be told largely around street corners. For example, in the summer of 1967, when I was a freshman, home for me was above Doherty's Bar at the corner of 40th and Chestnut Street. I worked at Quaker Photo at 9th and Walnut. My friends and I played basketball in the evenings at the Holy Redeemer Chinese Catholic Church gym at 8th and Arch, and watched great Baker League basketball at the Bright Hope Baptist Church at 12th and Columbia. And many of us were lucky enough to come to college here at LaSalle, famously at 20th and Olney. Life since then has migrated from corners to screens. Now we meet over phones and portals and laptops and other such devices. But that's not really meeting. My hope for today's graduates is that the infatuation with screens will eventually fade, and we will once again meet on corners as citizens, as neighbors and friends to rebuild, in Walt Whitman's words, the city invincible. For what it's worth, Doherty's unified field theory predicts that the corners that will witness the greatest success are those where we can meet for lunch. Thank you and good luck. Fight on, explorers.